Instead of believing that we're related, we are totally anthropocentric. Well, we're Eurocentric or, centric about our rights entitlement as North Americans too, but we're just like all about us. So we make paupers of our relatives. Whether you are a salmon in a river system, or in the ocean, a whale, a wolf, we make paupers of them, or a buffalo. Drive them to the edge of extinction and call it Darwin. No, it's public policy. That's what does that. Greed. Instead of having a cyclical system, we live in a linear world. Naomi's critiques are very good on this. I mean, the reality is the two best examples of a linear economy. First is waste management. Growing industry, huh? If you want like long-term stability, offer to be a waste dump. Because that's what we produce. 30 trillion pounds in the US. That doesn't even include wastewater, which I haven't figured out what wastewater is since they aren't making any new water. That's a linear economic system. Similarly, we're very good at producing waste people. That's the prison industrial complex. United States leads in that. Of the 9.1 million prisoners in the world, 2.1 million are in the United States. Growth economy. I got plenty of relatives that have been in and out of that. And that's the community I work in. Not sustainable. Growth economies based on linear systems. And finally, instead of thinking intergenerationally, what do we do well? Corporate profits quarterly. That's what it's all about. And we, North Americans, I'm up to 6 kids I raise now. I didn't actually produce them all, just want to share that with you. Really impatient. Average North American child watches a TV show, 47 minutes. You got a little problem, develops, little character development, solved, like that. That's not real. Things take a while to get messed up, things take a while to fix. Have some patience, be long haul people. Take care of yourselves. So here we are, this opportunity to do the right thing. We need to make sure that no matter how many times they say the lie or they'll tell the lie, doesn't mean it's true. You know how this works. So for instance, one of the best lies I hear them say is, you cannot match American energy demand or Canadian energy demand with renewables. You guys heard this one? Well, first, there is some truth in it, because in the US, 57% of the energy that is produced between point of production and point of consumption, 57% is wasted. Highly inefficient systems between power lines, inefficient production, inefficient consumption. You understand what I'm saying? So really, who would want to meet such an inefficient demand? We shouldn't be forced to meet an inefficient system. We should create efficiency in our systems. Second great myth is, of course, cannot feed the world. So should we leave that to Monsanto? I'm thinking pretty much not. Third, the economy will fail if we save the environment. But the economy will fail if we do not stop the leak that we have, whether it is the hemorrhaging of the single largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world, which exists right now, to oil companies. That's kind of a leak. Or the fact that each and every one of our communities leaks out most of its food and energy economy to purchases from elsewhere. It's a leak. The fourth myth is that there is some kind of a geoengineering or that technology will save us. This usually has to do with the idea of a nuclear waste ferry or a carbon sequestration ferry. Neither exist. Although, they might live with the tooth fairy, I'm not sure. So let me tell you my experience. I've been at this 30 years. I fight a lot of the same projects over and over. I also am privileged to live on my own reserve in northern Minnesota, where theoretically, you would look at us and say, those guys don't have a shot. Every statistic you do not want to have, we have. We once again beat the Red Lake Reservation in being the poorest county in the state of Minnesota. We're not successful by US standards. It turns out that I don't want their pie. I want a different pie. Turns out we don't want to meet their standards. What an idea. Turns out what we want is some dignity, some control over our future, some clean water, some clean air, some food that we know where it came from, and some energy that wasn't extracted at the price of someone else's ecosystem or our own. So we start working on this, and first we did this study, food and energy. We discovered we spent $8 million a year on food, of which we spend $7 million like that off reservation at Walmart, Food Service of America. It's a leak, represents a quarter of our economy. Our second economic leak on my reservation is energy. We spend a quarter of our money on energy, of which all of it is spent essentially off reservation, buying stuff from large corporations. So what if we were the people that try to stop the leak? We decided that that might be a really good idea. So you start with some efficiency, put up some solar thermal panels on the south side of the poorest people in your community's houses to reduce 25% of their heating bill. You turn from fossil fuels to wood, so we got a lot of that. You can, I don't know if you know this about wood, but you can make heat cutting it, and if you have issues, like I don't have a shrink, I have a wood pile. I find that works really well. It's cheaper and I get more done. My house is warm. My whole family has issues. We go to the wood pile. And we put up wind turbine. So we're working on this wind turbine thing. We have this thing going in northern Minnesota. I call it wind turbine envy. Oh, and the other thing about putting up a wind turbine, for those of you who want to be liberated, is when you put up a wind turbine, you get to say you had an erection. Isn't that great? So, we're having an erection party down on White Earth. You guys could all come see. We're going to have a really big erection this week. It's totally liberating. Anyway, so we need a lot more of those. But in our community, we put up this one wind turbine, and then my tribal council that, always try to compete, they put up a bigger one. I said, good. Could have a bigger erection. That's fabulous. And this other reservation want to have a bigger erection than that. I said, that's just great. But the key in this is that we want to be the indigenous people that actually own our energy system. I don't want to lease it to, I don't know, Excel Corporation or Ontario Power or Ontario Hydro. I don't want to lease it to anybody. I want to own it. We don't want to be in the back seat. We want to drive it.